No name from Beeb. BBC? No. Mike, we'll start with you, please.
You had to withstand a fair bit of fire from that first 20-25 minutes, didn't you?
Did we ever? It was kind of almost hit by a cyclone, and I thought there was a combination of things there. I thought they started the game with much more intent than we did, and obviously with the way they like to promote the ball and move the ball, and the agility and the athleticism of some of their players, it can really hurt you, particularly when the ruck gets quick. And on the flip side, from our perspective, we probably need to be better in terms of our intent, how we start the game, because we very quickly lost control, and it took some time then to win it back.
You had to scramble really well, and you did do that, didn't you? But obviously you've been probably looking what happened in the middle, weren't you?
Yeah, there's a number of things, middles, edges. I just thought that as a collective, our intent around our defensive work at the start of the game wasn't where it needed to be. But what was there, like you've identified, was our willingness to scramble and work hard for each other. So you end up probably working harder than you probably would have done in the first place if you work hard early. We just didn't quite have that at the start of the game.
For a bit of disruption before the game, you pulled Tommy out. What was up with Tommy?
Tommy just pulled up tight in his hamstring in the warm-up and didn't feel like he could open up. And when it's like that, you're probably foolish to take risks. So we had a very, very last-minute reshuffle and got some tough decisions to make under pressure. But we had obviously John Bennison moved to the right wing, Wonga moved to the left wing, Matty Whitley moved to the centres, Joe Batchelor came off the bench, George Delaney came onto the bench. So there was a number of changes after losing one, which whether I got that decision right, I'm not too sure. But it's a credit to the playing group really that they can handle that disruption and still go out there and get a result.
The bench had a big influence on that game, but one of your starters, Morgan Knowles, was a tower of strength out there today, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's. I think Morgs is probably one of those that flies under the radar a little bit. And, the toughness and the way he plays the game week in week out has almost become normal. But I think he was probably the standout forward on the field there tonight. He's such a great lad. But what I think he is doing really well is getting the balance right between playing tough and physical, but also using his skill when he gets the opportunity as well.
Matty Leeds nearly. That's quite a way to come back from quite a serious ailment to burst the line like that. Yeah,
almost. That was our first real, set in the half when Matty makes that break. And look, Matty's obviously he's had a very rough period of time with the number of illnesses and different things that's gone on there. So we're prepared to be patient with Matty. But it was just great to see him back out there this evening and get some minutes under his belt.
How important was that score just before half time, given the fact that they'd basically been on top for so long?
Yeah, I think it was important. You go in at 8-0 down, it's a very different game than 8-6, and obviously the psychological blow as well there in that instance. And by no means did that help us win the game. It was just obviously a good time to score, a good time to get ourselves back in the game. Given the fact that we've been second best for long periods.
They really turned the screw as well with the second half, start of the second half with their kicks and the dropouts. You sort of come off the ropes there with that try, didn't you? That's a bit of a signal for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, what I was really pleased with was we made an error in that second half and then ended up having to defend our line for 2-3 sets, and you've got to be able to do that. You've got to have that in your locker. And whilst I'm sat there as a coach and the players, you'd rather not have to do it. If you're going to be successful as a team, you've got to know that you do it. So I was really pleased that we stood up to that threat and then went down the other end and scored. So good sides have that in them, and I thought that showed in us tonight.
Longer minutes from Moses tonight. Was Darryl all right, or was it tactical? Was it?
No, it was fine. It's it was a bit of a difficult one because we did have the late disruption. My kind of substitute plan went out the window a little bit, and my plan was to always get Darryl back on at the back end of the game and finish, but we also had Joe Batchelor out there who we planned to play limited game time tonight, so I was really concerned whether he could finish the game. So I was holding Darryl back because we might have needed Morgan Knowles in the second row or something like that. So I kept it off, and then I just thought we were travelling okay and didn't want to cause any more disruption than we'd had tonight. But Darryl's fine. He's important player for us. He's shown his quality since he's come in. We've got a big month coming up, so we're going to need all hands on deck.
Gives you a shift, Joe, for a first game back and the first real game of the season. That's some effort, really, isn't it?
Yeah, he did. I think obviously he's come in off the back of an injury. It was his first game back tonight, and I actually thought his game got better as the game went on. I thought he got caught like the rest of the team did in a bit of a tumble dryer at the start of the game. But one thing that Joe prides himself on is his effort and his fitness, and I thought that came to the fore at the back end of the game when we needed him.
Conrad's best game of the season so far. He put a dent in that line a few times, didn't he?
Who's that, sorry?
Conrad Huddle.
Yeah, Conor, he's really knuckled down throughout the course of pre-season, really been honest with himself, and Conrad knows is that if he looks after himself off the field, if he invests in his fitness, and he's a player that's unique to us and gives us something a bit different. But what he does when he's at his best is he values the hard work first. He values the stuff that he does off the field to put himself in the best position, and Conrad's done that really well over the last couple of months.
Straight back at it next week, same opponents. Is that an easy review?
It's almost a review preview, isn't it? I mean, it's the same team, but a completely different challenge. We know that they're going to be disappointed off the back of losing that game. We know that they're going to know that there was periods in that game where they were in the ascendancy, and they're going to look at areas where they can improve as we are. So although it's the same team playing the same team, it's probably going to be a different game next week, and we need to be prepared for that.
What was it with Curtis?
Curtis, a bit of a back spasm during the week, which again it's not something, if push comes to shove and we really forced it, we could have played him, but given where the squad health is at the moment, there's probably no need to take unnecessary risks and make something which is a short-term problem a long-term problem. So we made what I feel is a sensible decision with Curtis there.
Paul, how significant a player is James Bell evolving into for you? I thought you got Morgan who starts the game brilliant in the middle for you, and James could come on. It's almost like a seamless transition for you. Yeah, it is, and both play the same position. Both got great skill, but seem to do it in a different way. And I think in James Bell you see a player who, you can imagine him as a 8-9-year-old kid in the backyards of where he grew up in New Zealand, just loving life, loving playing rugby and throwing the footy around. Where Belly's at his best, and it's similar to Morgan, is that if you're valuing the tough stuff first and valuing your defensive work, then they've got the ability to open teams up with the ball. It's just about getting the balance right there, and when they do, the pair of them, they're very effective for us. There can't be many better sort of impact players, replacement players off the bench in the whole comp than him with what he's able to do with the ball. Yeah, he's like say because he's unique in that way. I think he offers something different than a lot in the comp. So we're delighted to have Belly in our squad, and I know that the playing group absolutely love him. He was voted the Players' Player of the Year last year off the back of that type of work, so that gives an indication of what the playing group think of him. And it's great to see someone like James do well, someone who he bounced around from club to club a little bit, and then took a bit of a gamble in coming to here, but his qualities really shone through, and I'm really proud of him and the way he's developed as a player in the last few years. With how difficult things were in that opening quarter for you, I guess players can sometimes go into the shells a little bit, but the commitment to play the way you wanted them to play, is that pleasing as a coach that they were able to grow into the game like that? Yeah, it's pleasing, and they are an honest group, and when I go in at half time and try and impress on the group the areas I feel we need to improve, they're already almost telling me, so they understand the game. They're a smart group, and but what we probably didn't do was work hard as a collective in those early exchanges. There was a lot of individual efforts, but as a team we were out of our systems. A lot of people doing things on their own, and when we do that is when we tend to fall into trouble. Just lastly on Tommy, with it being a hamstring, would you prepare to be without him next week? I would say so. Obviously we'll get the necessary scans done that you do, but in all my time in the game I've never saw anybody with an hamstring issue come back in 1 week, so it might just be a bit of tightness, and he might just need freeing up, and he's good to play, and if he is great. If not, we'll adapt like we did tonight.
And Alex Walmsley's little kick be replayed a few times in future. Could you see the funny side of it? Or?
Not at the time, no. We've just had a chuckle in the change rooms after the game there, as I've had to revoke Alex's kicking licence. I didn't think he had one, but he did. But I think it's a lesson for us as a team and Al as an individual, is that that's probably an indication of doing things on your own. And Al's been arguably the best front rower in the competition for a long time, because he's a big fella, he's athletic, he carries the ball tough, he plays tough, he's brutal, He does all those things, that side of the game really, really well. And he's probably one player that most teams think I'd rather not play against him. So that's what Alex needs to understand when he plays like that. That's what makes him an handful, not his kicking game.
Ross? Well, I was just going to say about Benison, you know, he's a fullback really, isn't he? He's got to go to right wing tonight. How highly do you rate him?
Yeah, very highly. I think he's a great story, John, in terms of that he wasn't probably the kid in the academy where everyone was saying, oh, he'll go on and play a first team for St Helens. He was a kid with a lot of effort. I remember, obviously, Christian was the coach at the time, and we invited a few of the younger lads to training, and we kind of just looked at each other going, well, this kid just keeps putting himself where the action is. He's all effort, all enthusiasm, and I know that's what this playing group, you know, really, really value. So he very quickly made himself, you know, a part of the group off the back of that type of thing, and he's improved off the back of that. You know, his quality's got better. He's got more comfortable in the environment. He's got more comfortable on the big stage. Obviously, still young, but played in a grand final. So we have every confidence that whenever John's called upon, he can go out there and do a good job.
It's hard to get game time, isn't it? Wells being fullback.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
He's got that versatility.
Yeah, it's the same for a number of players who. Look, we've got Ben Davies there, we've got Sam Royal there. They've been 18th and 19th man every game this week, and that's probably, if you're a player, that's probably the toughest gig out of everybody in the stadium here tonight, because you're a couple of spots off getting a game, which is absolutely what you desperately want, but you're also sat there really, wanting to be involved. And I can't speak highly enough of them two blokes, because despite the disappointment of not playing, they turn up every week. They have a real attitude around putting the team first. They don't let the disappointment show to the rest of the group, although I know as the coach they are disappointed. I want them to just be disappointed that they're not playing, but they don't let it show, and they don't let it affect their quality when they're on the training field, and that's a real great sign for them too as young men.
Dev?
Sorry, I think you mentioned a little bit earlier, Johnny Lomax, 300 Super League game.
Yeah.
Goal kicking as well. I mean, I know he's not his first choice, but he nails some real tricks.
No, I think the last time he kicked was at Wakefield away a couple of years ago, where he kicked off the sideline to help us win the game there as well. So I think might be calling on him to do it a little bit more on recent evidence. But Johnny, 300 Super League games, a lot more than that as well in a Saints shirt. An absolutely wonderful person, a great competitor. I thought he was the best player on the field tonight, and because what he has a real ability to do. No one talks about when people talk about tough players. No one really goes to halfbacks. They always go with the big men, the tough men through the middle. But there isn't a tougher competitor in the competition than Johnny Lomax.
You goal kicker too?
Potentially, yeah. Again, that's a sign of Johnny. Obviously, Lewis Dodd's groin was tight. He was going to kick tonight, but then obviously that became a bit of a problem for him. Obviously we'd lost Tommy in the warm-up, who was another option, and Johnny being Johnny, but as a great leader he has put his hand up for the team.
Well, in terms of having to Leeds over tonight and then got them next week, that give you a bit of a boost going into the Challenge Cup time?
Yeah, I don't feel that way. I feel that across the hall from us is a team that had a lot of good periods in that game. I think they'll take confidence from that. There's also a bit of a wounded animal, and I know from just being involved in the game a long time, they're going to come back and bite back next week, and we've got to be prepared for playing the same team, but probably in a different game. And it's a different challenge. The Challenge Cup itself, brings different emotions. The do or die side of it is challenging. So we're going to have to look at the good stuff that we did, fix up some of the poor stuff that definitely needs fixing up, but understand that next week it gets even tougher.
We'll call it there, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.